What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to Britain versus America. Who does it better? Well, this definitely is not gonna be controversial at all, for sure. So, today, I want to check out this video by Lost in the Pond, which is going to compare Britain versus America. And we're gonna find out which country is better at doing certain things, such as who's better at TV, or their food, or the public transportation and infrastructure, that kind of thing. And I'm very interested to see what the verdict is here. I know Lost in the Pond here, who's made this video, has lived in both the UK and the US. So this is going to be very interesting. Not that this is a competition or anything, but let's see who's better. Let's take a look.
Who does it better, Britain or America?
Okay, first category is most welcoming. Who's the most welcoming? Well, there's a lot of criticisms you could put against Americans, but as far as being sort of nice or maybe not always polite, but kind and welcoming, for the most part, most Americans, except for some bad apples, I'd say on the whole, Americans are pretty welcoming. I think in the news and on the internet, Americans get a really bad reputation, and some of that is really deserved. But if you come to the United States, most people are pretty, just going about their life, pretty kind, normal people. Pretty, Americans like to talk too, pretty friendly. As for Britain, I don't know. I've never been to Britain. I'd be curious to hear what he has to say about that. We're really generalizing an entire populations of people here, like who's the most welcoming.
First category, welcoming visitors. I don't know that there's any country on earth that has absolutely perfected this, but as someone who's been a visitor to both countries, I suppose this is quite hard to decide. It's also made harder by the fact that airports are not particularly welcoming places. So I think this has to be judged once you've got in the taxi. And for the
Yeah, if we're talking about the airport, has anybody ever had a good experience in an airport? I don't know. I'm curious what he's going to say here. Obviously, I'm American. Maybe I'm a little biased with some of this analysis.
the most part, Americans are very welcoming. Sometimes that is with a painted smile, whereas in Britain, those smiles tend to look less worked on. But I would say on the whole, I felt equally welcome in either country. So this one's a tie.
That makes sense to me. That really does make a lot of sense to me. It just feels like the UK and the US are filled with just people trying to go about your life, generally trying to be good, that kind of thing. I have heard here in the United States that it's a little strange that with our customer service jobs, people who have to interact with you at restaurants or stores, grocery stores or shops, American people who work in America are really taught to put on what he called a painted smile. To really act like they're... It can be kind of off-putting. If you walk in a clothing store, the worker will approach you and be like, "How's everything going? Are you having a good day? Very good. Can I help you with anything?" Okay. That kind of thing. That's extremely normal. Pretty expected, actually. And that can be almost like fake nice. Fake welcoming. But besides that, I think making this a tie is a good call. Signage? Signage? what are we talking about here? Like road signs, like highway signs, speed limit signs, that kind of thing?
Signage is probably a big part of feeling welcome or not welcome in another country, because if it's not any good, you'll feel lost, which is probably why this book that I discovered at San Francisco Airport feels very apt. But on the whole, I've had
I like to give my opinion before he goes because it's kind of fun to compare, I think. Signage in America is fine. I don't know. Like we live in a day and age, it's 2025. It's the future. You're just going to get your phone out and like use Google Maps or you're going to use the internet to navigate usually. Signs honestly aren't even that necessary in a weird way. So this is kind of weird to me.
had good and bad experiences in either country. In America, specifically here in Chicago, signage can be bad when you're trying to cross a street downtown because sometimes you'll have Google Maps with you, but the roads won't be labeled on the other side of the road, so you don't know what road it is, and you have to look at the other roads to find out what road that is, and then sometimes that's not clear, and you don't know which intersection you're at. On the
Okay. Yeah, I don't currently live in like a big American city. So I actually, as an American, like I'm not really up to date on how easy or difficult this is. So I'm going to defer to him on this one and say that in our cities, maybe we could do better with the road signs.
the other hand, back in Britain, a problem that's very common that I think is a little less common in America, signage on the front of establishments often don't know where to put an apostrophe. So while I'm sure 95% of the time both countries have good signage,
What?
it's the bad signage that sticks out to me and in equal terms. So again, without wishing to sit on the fence, I would say this one is also a tie.
He doesn't like how the apostrophes. Is he joking? Is he making a joke? I don't get it. Teas, coffees, and snacks. I mean, the apostrophes do seem excessive here, if not misplaced. But I wouldn't really care about that, actually. All right, it's another tie. I don't know if signage is even a good category to be like, who does signs better? I don't know if there's enough there to even decide. Let's keep going. Public transport. Oh, this just makes me laugh and laugh. I'm going to really laugh if healthcare is on here. Like healthcare systems and stuff like that. Public transport. In a lot of American towns, it doesn't exist. Non-existent. As far as a national rail system or national public transport system really doesn't exist. There's Greyhound buses, I suppose. Some buses you can do if you got to get across the country. I think that is a thing. But the infrastructure compared to some of the things I've heard about in Europe is embarrassing here in America. I wholeheartedly expect Britain to win this one.
Public transport. I think anybody who's ever watched my channel before might have an inclination as to which way this is going to go. I think Britain, while not even being the best in Europe for public transport, is still pound for pound more reliable than its American equivalent.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, when I was in San Francisco last week, I absolutely love their trams. In Chicago, I love the L train when Chainsaw Jim isn't on board. But here's what America's lacking. A more comprehensive nationwide train network. Buses in some cities that show up on a regular basis. And
Yeah.
good long-distance buses, because Greyhound, whereas Britain has a more...
He literally mentioned everything I was thinking of. So this is spot on. Like, in America, you need to own a car. Well, if you live in a big city, like Chicago or New York City, you can walk, you can take Ubers, taxis, there's buses, you can bicycle. In big cities, fine. But most of the United States is not big cities. It's the random towns and small cities, and the buses are unreliable, they're unpleasant, trains non-existent, like woefully lacking in the United States in public transport.
or reliable and robust transport infrastructure. So I will go with Britain.
Yeah. Yep. Walkability. Oh, God. We're getting killed now. Oh, my gosh. I don't know what the other categories are, but maybe we'll make a comeback. America will make a comeback here because I think we're going to lose this one. America is designed to drive. It's designed for driving. If I'm going down the street, I'm going to drive. It's just ingrained in my being at this point. And that's most Americans. We don't walk places. It's actually considered strange. And again, if you're in a big major city in America, you'll walk. Fine. But most Americans, like, if you're just in a random city or town and you see someone walking, sometimes I'll actually think, is that person okay? Like, are they in trouble? Like, do they need help? Why are they walking? It's that uncommon in parts of America, and it's designed for driving a car. So I expect to lose this one.
Walkability, which is quite hard to generalize, especially given the size of the United States. But
Yeah.
despite the fact that Britain's public transport is superior, it is also more walkable because obviously in America there's a big reliance on cars.
Yes.
So a lot of American cities, Chicago being a fine example, built massive suburbs that expanded way beyond the actual city. And sometimes this is so far out that walking is just not a viable option.
Absolutely. The suburbs around our cities are very far away. I can tell this guy has lived in the United States because he understands like everything that I'm trying to talk about in regards to the US. He has experienced this, so it's good. This like been pretty accurate so far.
In Britain, everything's squished together more and often within walking distance. So it's not unusual for somebody to walk to the post office or the chip shop or the pub. Whereas in America, walking is much further down the list when
Yeah.
it comes to everyday mobility.
Yeah, and just like I think Europeans in general are more healthy, and you guys get out and walk more. Americans, we are not known for being healthy, and not even bothering to walk down the street might have something to do with it.
So going into a 4-2 lead, Britain wins the walkability category for my money.
Okay, 4-2. I don't know if we're gonna have some kind of comeback here. Beaches. I don't know what the beach situation is really like in the UK. The UK is, some islands, so you have beaches. I mean, could you argue that North America is just a giant island? I don't know. But the United States, we have beaches. They're nice. I mean, they're very far away. If you live in the center of America or even, close to the center, you're so far away from any beaches. But our beaches are nice, We got California, Florida, East Coast, West Coast. We have a lot of beaches. I don't know how you decide. Are we talking about the amount of beach or how good it is?
Beaches. This is going to be a hard one because I have some very fond memories of British beaches. Those in the southwest are particularly stunning during the summer months. On the other
Wow.
hand, the beach in Brighton is made of pebbles. I also grew up near a
Wow.
beach, even though it was often laden with used Durex products. Whereas in America, you know what? The beaches that I've seen tend to be quite clean. And because it's got an absolutely gigantic coastline, I think there's just a greater diversity of beaches.
Sure.
Many of which I've not visited. But I have been to a beach on the West Coast, the Great Lakes, Florida.
He's right. Anytime I've gone to the beach, it is very clean. I will get, yeah, that is true. I never even thought about that, or how that might be different in other countries, but it is a nice experience here.
And up in Maine. And I've always found them to be nice and well kept, and sometimes the bearer of a beautiful sunset. So on this score, I'm going to have to give the edge to America.
Okay, I'll take it. Countryside. I've seen some video on YouTube of British countryside. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful. English countryside, Scottish countryside. When I think of countryside in the United States, I think mostly of like flat farmland. Not terribly beautiful or interesting, most of the United States, as far as the country goes. I think this would go to Britain, because I think it's supposed to be a lot more beautiful there.
Who has the best countryside? This is a tough one to pick. I think America has a greater diversity of how countryside might look, depending
Yeah.
on where you are in the country. And
True.
sometimes, like when I went out to West Virginia, the countryside is absolutely beautiful and rolling. On the
Sure.
other hand, while driving through the entire state of Indiana, sometimes the most interesting thing for 300 miles is a barn house.
Yeah.
Whereas on the occasions that I visited Britain in the last few years, the countryside in its green splendour did something to me as it passed by the train, or as the train passed it. Physics was not my strong point. I think it was nostalgia, but it was also affirmation of my love of the colour green. In fact, when I think of Britain, my first
Look at this. Like, for example, this is Britain. This is beautiful. You would not really find something like this anywhere in the US, I think.
thought is the greenliness of the countryside, and so I have no choice but to restore Britain's 2-point lead.
I agree with that. I think that's the right move. So far, like, as far as all the scoring, I think we've pretty much. He's British, I'm American, and we've pretty much agreed on all this stuff so far. City life. Gosh, I stay away from the city. I'm not a city guy. City life in America? I don't know. Most people in American cities are known for being pretty rude, not being pleasant. City life in America is extremely busy. That's why there's a lot of Americans like it. You have to either love it or you hate it living in American city. It's very active, bustling, a lot of people trying to go very fast and very rude. That's what I remember. I don't know what city life is really, what you can generalize it in Britain, though.
Now, the reverse of that, city life. Who does it better? And given the vast amounts of cities in both countries, this puts me in a difficult spot. I've never been bored in Liverpool, Manchester, or London.
Are we talking about like how beautiful they are? Because it seems like in the UK you also have more of the historical architecture and the better public transportation. So I would be inclined to even give this one to Britain.
The same is true in Chicago or San Francisco or New York City. I think with this I'm going to have to let my emotions guide me and go back to a comment that I made in a video not too long ago in which I said sometimes when I'm walking down a street in Chicago, I just look around myself and go, oh my gosh, I live in America. And I think that feeling is particularly strong in a city because you have so many visual markers of its Americanness. And this probably just plays into my childhood obsession with America. But sometimes with those huge skyscrapers and blinking lights, I feel like I'm in a movie, and it's not altogether a bad feeling. So controversially, I'm going to go with Americans.
Interesting. It's fun to hear his perspective because sometimes he says things I don't even really think about. Like American, like that we have big buildings and skyscrapers. To me, it's like, okay, you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. Even me. And the flashing lights and the busyness. And as a British person, he really enjoys that American experience of it. So I don't know who has the better city life. This seemed like a very like sort of emotional pick. Like it could go either way.
Cities. But there's a lot more to unpack with that, so maybe there's a future video in my brain.
Excuse me, film and TV. Wow. I mean, my first reaction to that is like film like America has Hollywood. America is literally known for film and TV. Like a lot of people move to Hollywood and America to do it. And I think we have the biggest film and TV industry in the world. And a lot of countries around the world watch American movies and television shows. I just think, based on the popularity and prevalence of it, of the industry in America, we would win this point. Now, as far as the quality, I mean, America comes out with so many shows and movies. It's like hard to even say, oh, they're good or they're bad. There's so many. Some are going to be great and some are going to be terrible. I think I don't watch enough British TV or film to know if the British stuff is good or not. The stuff I've seen is good and very British. I don't know. I would give this point to America just because, like, I think we're known for movies and TV, right?
Film and television, I think it depends on which of those words we're talking about as to who wins. If it's film, America wins hands down. In fact, most of the films that I watched growing up in Britain were most likely American films.
Right.
Wizard of Oz, Back to the Future, Star Wars,
Right. And it's like, here in America, you better believe we're not ever seeing British films. Which isn't a good thing. You know, we should be exposed to more of that, but we get almost zero exposure to the British films. Sounds like you guys get a lot of exposure to American films.
Indiana Jones, and one criminally overlooked by the Academy, Herbie Rides Again. On the other hand, while there has been some absolutely excellent American television, I grew up more so on British stuff, which I kind of prefer for a number of reasons.
Okay.
Number one, our TV shows tend not to be as loud. And if it's BBC stuff, you don't have any ads, never mind an ad every 5 minutes. And I like the fact that on British television, a lot of the characters look like real people, as opposed to looking...
I've seen a little bit of the British TV on YouTube, and he's right. It has a totally different feel, much more real, especially when I think of like the original UK The Office, much more real, a unique brand of humor and comedy that's uniquely British. Yeah, I see what he's saying now with British TV overall just being of higher quality and America just having a bigger quantity.
Like they came straight from a modelling shoot. So for me, Britain gets the edge on television, meaning that film and television is a tie.
Okay. That makes sense to me. We're dividing up film and TV, 1 point each. This is like almost neck and neck. This is a very long video too, so I think I'm gonna have to stop here for now, and I'm gonna come back to this in part 2. But this has been really interesting. There's a lot of great things about Britain and America, and it's fun pitting us kind of head to head, a bit of a rivalry going on here, but all in good fun, because there's good things about both countries. I don't know, this has been really, I'm excited for part 2 to see where this goes. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like, or leave a comment with your thoughts on Britain versus America. Who does it better? If you agree or if you disagree with any of the rankings or points so far, that'd be fun to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and learning about British culture, or if you're interested in part 2 of this video, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.